Welcome to Have a Life Teaching, the podcast designed for educators who are dedicated to enhancing their teaching practice and creating a positive impact on their students' lives. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the world of education, exploring a wide range of topics related to curriculum, instruction, and assessment in K-12 schools. Together, we'll learn from the brightest minds in the education field. So if you're a passionate educator who's ready to take your teaching practice to the next level, join us as we explore the exciting world of education. My name is John Shimbari, signing in and saying, let's have a life teaching. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Have a Life Teaching podcast. As my listeners know, we've had guests talking about what life skills students need to thrive. We've also had in a recent episode, Johanna Tremontano coming on, talking about as a college professor, what skills high school students really need to be adopting to do well in college. And so tonight we're actually going to continue that theme, but really talking about not just getting into college, but thriving and standing out as your own individual. What is your personal brand as a college student that will not only get you into college, but something you could take with you for the rest of your life? I'm excited to have two guests tonight. The first mother-daughter team on the show. We're joined by Dr. Carmen Bell-Ross, Dr. Carmen, who is the CEO founder of SP Grace. She is an expert in leadership development, workforce development, and the reason she's on the show tonight is they're going to be talking about her work in establishing and developing the College Smarter method, which helps students go beyond just their grades and really helps them craft that personal branding narrative and positions them authentically as they're applying to college and then going through college and beyond. We're also going to be joined by her daughter, Sierra, who is a student at Harvard University. There's probably no better testament to how the College Smarter method works than our own daughter. We're going to be talking about how the method helped her position herself and what advice she has for high school students who want to develop their personal branding. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, John. We're excited to be here.
And I'm glad to have you. Like I said, it is a rare treat to have a mother and a daughter. And so Sierra, welcome and thank you. Dr. Carmen, let's start with talking about what was your why? How did you get involved in this work? And why did you decide it was important to create something such as the College Smarter method?
I appreciate that you ask why. I don't get asked that often. So I am sitting next to my why. When she was around 3 or 4, I worked for a company in their speakers bureau, traveling around the country. It was a global brand. And the focus of that work was helping students understand what they needed to do at their stage in high school or college to get to the next level. I did that for thousands of students around the country. It was a scripted program based on their employment surveys and research. What I realized very quickly was, man, there's a lot here that people don't know. I went to college, so I thought I knew what to do. I realized so much has changed and there was much I didn't know. I thought, you know what? I am going to craft this for her based on what I saw, what I experienced, what I was doing, and wanting to navigate that space. In my career, in my company, I have been in career and professional development, leadership development for over 20 years. When organizations have problems with their leaders or teams, they're calling us and telling us, hey, this is what's going on. We need your help. We need your support. And so I'm able to see it through the entire career life cycle, right? So I see what's needed once you get into the workplace. I'm seeing what's needed to move to the next level. I've coached everybody from frontline, first line people who are just getting into their first job to CEOs of large companies. Seeing the full spectrum, I was able to really refine and tweak and fine tune my method. And so she was my first test case from the full cycle. But I also have done this for many other students along the way. I've worked with many other students. I have a student thriving at NYU in their film school, one of the top in the country. Got another student heading off to Emory University this fall who's super excited. I've got a student at University of Michigan who's thriving. Got to benefit from the strategy that I was crafting for her. And I said, you know what? The world deserves this.
So now, Dr. Carmen, what are the pillars of the College Smarter method?
Sure. If I really have to get down to what is most important, the thing that's most important is that every student is a unique little snowflake. Every student, I don't care what their grades are, I don't care what you think about their resume or their profile to date. Every student has something incredible and authentic to bring to a campus that is valuable. But students don't know how to tap into that. They don't understand things about themselves they could use to how special they are. And so I think that is really central here is that we tap into who you really are and then align things with that. It's more of an art than a science getting into college, especially elite universities. They're very competitive. When you have competitive universities, students are playing from the same playbook. Their parents have this long list of things. They're like, check all the boxes, community service, AP classes, honors, you've got to do leadership. There's a list and everybody's going down the same list. And guess what? Everybody's playing from the same playbook. And then they get frustrated when they don't get into certain universities. If everybody's doing the same thing, how do you stand out? That is where our secret sauce lies, helping them to not only stand out, but to be authentic, to own the space they occupy in the world and to really lean into it. Once the student owns their story, they take it to a whole other level when they own their own story, but they need support and help and guidance. And that's how we come with our secret sauce. So,
I love it. So speaking of that, Sierra, what is your authentic self? And what can you put forth when you're applying? Sierra is a student at Harvard. So this method worked. How did you set yourself apart from other students? What did you highlight about you?
When I was applying to college, the biggest things I highlighted were my interest and my passion for helping people, helping my community, going into medicine. If I think about when I started doing things close to what I'm studying now, even in elementary school, my mom always had me in math pentathlon, battle of the books. She had me active. I was in a running group every week, running a couple miles. I was constantly doing things I was having fun with. Moving into middle school, I was set on being an engineer. My mom had me in more STEM groups. I have a picture holding a lamb heart in sixth grade. I was always programming robots, building Legos. She was feeding into what my interests were. I did cheer, switched to gymnastics and to dance. She always had me active, investing in what I was having fun with. It wasn't a type of situation where she was like, in 10 years from now, I want you to apply to Harvard and get in to do all these things now. It was just what I liked. She just helped me to like it a little more. She put it in front of my face, you know what I'm saying? I think that all of those activities that I was in helped craft what I became passionate about. I started wanting to be a veterinarian, then I went to engineering. Once I was interested in medicine, we started doing more things with community service and different scientific extracurriculars. She really fed into what, like when I told her, okay, this is what I want to do. She spent a lot of money on dance intensives out of town. She very strategically guided me into becoming passionate about what I wanted to do. I go to school with people that are still trying to figure out what they want to do professionally. I've known since sixth or seventh grade. That's definitely because of all the things she was putting me in and having me participate in. I think you asked what I guess, how did I find my authentic self? I would say through all of that, through those activities, I was genuinely enjoying them because I was passionate about. Right now, I study neuroscience, and the classes that are super hard are still fun to me because they're interesting. In high school, my mom never let me get a regular summer job. Like, I could not work at McDonald's, I couldn't work at the gym. Like, I had to do something that had something to do with what I wanted to do professionally. And it always made me mad because I wanted like the fun, like summer camp jobs with my friends. I never understood why she was like, no, if it's not related to what you want to do, then you can't do it. Until senior year, I could not get a job unless it was somehow related to my interests, what I wanted to do professionally. I think it was important because I ended up working with a clinical psychologist. That's when I learned about mental health, psychiatry, psychology. I became interested in the brain and leaned more into that because mental health is a big deal in my family. It became a big part of me, all of my interests. I studied the brain because of those experiences working in that office. It made it a real story for me. It wasn't like I was just trying to say something that sounded good to whatever school I was applying to. It was more so that I was really interested in what I was talking about so I could be passionate about it and it felt real.
Your passion comes through even on this is coming through even on this interview. What I take away from what you were saying, and in terms of, I think speaking as someone that just met you, your passion comes through. And I heard curiosity, that you tried different things throughout your life, that it wasn't just one thing, but you were always active seeking. And it was about following a path, that you did have these interests in science from a young age, and your mom was helping you, as she said, guide you in certain pathways. And then, yes, there was that opportunity to work in an academic setting, right? Where we could almost look at those as schools that are now doing apprenticeships or mentorships with their students. I heard a lot of key things in there.
John. Part of my secret sauce with Sierra was helping her navigate high school. It's important for high school students planning to go to college to have two distinct paths through their activities. This is important for parents as they think about how to determine what their kids should be spending their time with. Yes, there is what is their natural curiosity? What do they think they want to do when they go to college? What do they think they may want to study? So they should be participating in activities related to that. When she was talking about STEM activities, I was in full support of her doing all of that. The part that she hasn't spent as much time talking about is you also need a lane that's your outlet, something you love to do. It doesn't have to have anything to do with what you think you want to do for your career. For Sierra, that was dance. We had two lanes going simultaneously. I spent hours in the car at dance rehearsals, waiting on her, going to recitals, bedazzling costumes, doing all the stuff, the summer programs, the intensives, all that comes with being a dance mom. But that was what she was passionate about. I let her lead and I supported, right? And I found more ways for her to explore what she was interested in.
And I'm glad that you said that, Dr. Carmen, that it really is about these two pathways. Yes, a pathway in developing an academic track, but then being authentic to yourself, as you said in Sierra's case, dance. By the way, Sierra, check out Beantown in Boston.
Okay,
It's a
I will.
swing dance camp. And because many of our listeners are educators, what advice would you have, Dr. Carmen, for teachers, school administrators? What should they be doing?
One thing we can do is validate more than traditional paths for success. Sometimes we give more weight to certain careers than others, certain skill sets. Some people think if it's a STEM career, then that makes it super important and valid. Or if it's IT or AI, that makes it super valid and important. But maybe not so much if you're a really talented artist. I think it's really important that we validate that students have all these different kinds of gifts, and everybody's gift is not a showy gift. Some people, for example, Sierra is a dancer. She danced semi-professionally in high school, and she's also one of the captains of Harvard's competitive dance team. It's a very important part of her life. And it's not necessarily part of her career path, but it is part of her life. That's a showy gift, right? You can dance, yay. But there are kids who have incredible gifts that are not showy. For example, those who are really empathetic and good listeners who are able to offer thoughtful advice and help people feel seen, important, and validated. That is a gift. And that's a gift that can move into an incredibly fulfilling career. We don't validate that stuff as much because it's not showy. Another thing I would say is that we continue to think about how we ask students about what they want to do next. We don't think about the fact that for young people, they have been told what to do. Their parents tell them where to go, when to be there. They are legally required to attend school. They get ready to walk out of the house. We tell them, like, you're not wearing that. So this is their whole life experience. Somebody is guiding all of their major decisions and even their small decisions. And then when they get around 14, 15, we're like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? Pick college so you can apply. You just told me I had to have salmon and asparagus for dinner. First major decision is, what am I going to do the rest of my life? I don't know. That's a stressful question. When we learn to ask students better questions, what lights you on fire? What are you happiest? What are you doing? What would you do if you could just do it every single day the rest of your life? Give us insights into what they value and what is really special about them. And that helps to validate them. It also helps to make them feel empowered that their story is important. I think that's a better question for us to ask than what do you want to do when you grow up? Because I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
So, on that note, you said a lot there, Dr. Carmen, that I'd like to parse out. You said we need to validate all of our students, those that have showy skills and students that don't have showy skills. What I took from what you said is we need to ask better questions that give insights into student agency. We've also talked about student agency on the show. So, my next question is this, Doctor, and maybe even Sierra could add to this. Sierra, your mom is the creator of the College Smarter method, but probably your schools also had a role in what you were doing and how you positioned yourself. So, my question for both of you then is, do you have any concrete advice for schools, teachers, or leaders to help them bring in student validation? Educators do to ensure they are validating all students. And what would be some ways to provide students with training wheels at self agency before we let them loose?
John, that was so loaded. That makes sense. That was a heavy question. In terms of what educators can do, I always hesitate to tell educators what to do because the load is so heavy. Even in well resourced schools, educators are navigating a lot because parents are special. Everywhere you go, you're dealing with parents. We all believe our kids are like the most amazing, super, most special, and we want you to give them all the attention, like my kid. I hesitate to tell educators what to do. However, where there are opportunities to look at each student and think, if I could give this student an award for something I see in them that they don't see themselves, what might that be? You remember when little kids, we all these awards for who has the prettiest smile? Let's amp that up to the high school level. Teachers see those. And if you go through your class list and realize that there's somebody you really are having a hard time coming up with something about, maybe be a little bit more intentional with trying to spend a little bit more time with that student just to connect better. Everybody isn't going to be proactive, and it's easy for the squeaky wheel to get the oil. Those who are more vocal and active tend to get our attention. Sometimes it's those students in the middle who don't necessarily get the attention that could really help them being able to figure out what really is about me that's really special.
That makes sense. One strategy I recommend to teachers is an exit ticket at the end of a class. You could do a summary. Hey, everyone, what did you learn today about the content? But you could mix it up and occasionally give every student a post-it note and say, write down 3 comments, one per note, about what appeared did really well today, and then give them that note. The students pass around the notes to feel validated. It doesn't always have to be showy. We all contribute. If the kid isn't getting a note, the teacher could chime in or have buddies beforehand paired up. So that way everyone is going to get a positive note. So that's the way, because as you were saying, not everyone is showy. And
Right.
having those listening skills and empathetic skills are critically important, probably no more so than now, where that's
Mhm.
lacking in our society. Sierra, how about you? What did your school or schools do to help you be your authentic self?
Honestly, I would say from a student standpoint, the biggest thing for me was teachers that committed to teaching and not to, I guess, focusing on grades. Like my biggest pet peeve with like even classes that I take now is teachers that like they don't really care about the student. They don't really care about the learning. They're just like, I taught this, I'm giving you a test, and if you do bad, that's your grade. And so I feel like because of that, like there's a lot of students that are like they're bad at school or they're not the smartest. I feel like that has nothing to do with your ability to learn or the capacity of your brain. I love math, and I think I might be a little strange in that area. I enjoy math because I love puzzles and problem solving. I would do calculus for fun, honestly. But when it comes to writing papers is my worst nightmare. I just cannot find a way to enjoy it. I feel like that doesn't mean that I'm less smart than someone else that enjoys writing papers. I feel like it's a thing in society that college is the next step after high school. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So, like, emphasizing multiple routes if you want to start at a community college and then go to a university or just learn what's right for you. I feel like that's the one big thing. And then also for teachers, focusing on actually teaching, making sure your students are learning and not focusing on performance. I think that's the biggest thing for me, especially in high school. I had a lot of teachers that really cared about my understanding. If I didn't get it, they found another way to explain it. That really helped me and boosted my confidence. I found ways to do that for myself when I got to college because obviously professors aren't going to focus on one student, but looking up different ways to explain things. Like, if I'm talking about molecules, I was like, okay, can you explain this in terms of popcorn in a bag? How can I understand it in a way that the teacher isn't delivering it at the time? That was like the biggest thing for me that helped me to really be successful.
I love it. And there's no better voice than a former high school student talking about the need to make learning relevant in terms of students understand. Thank you for that, Sierra. I have a hard question. We know that universities can no longer take diversity into consideration in their admissions decisions. Students who are diverse sometimes feel imposter syndrome. Do they belong where they are? How does the College Smarter method help diverse students realize they are unique and do belong at these elite universities? And once they get to these universities, how do you recommend they maintain their ground?
One thing to keep in mind is you are getting into these universities because you bring value to the campus community. You are bringing yourself, you are bringing whatever your background is that is interesting, whatever your strengths are, whatever your creative side brings. Like, you're bringing value to the university. So you don't just want to go to a university that you want that doesn't want you. You want one that values you too. Fit is important for every student. With all that has changed and our confidence has been shaken a little, people have gotten a little bit distracted and sidetracked in this college process. The College Smarter method leans into the uniqueness that is you, the student, and it highlights the things about you that are incredible. That will help you to not only stand out in college admissions, but even beyond in your career, anytime you are applying for anything. In addition to that, I think that it's important to remember that we spend time talking about fit. There are over 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States. A lot of times, we haven't necessarily done all of the investigation to make sure that the schools we're applying to are the right schools. And the right school means different things. You're looking at programs. Does it feel right on campus? Do you want to be in a big city, small town, competitive environment, artsy person? There are just 1,000 different things that you could possibly consider. And so one of the things that we do with College Smarter, our students get into one of their top schools. Why? Because they are sure it's their top school before they apply. They're sure they have a fit. We've helped them to figure out how to find the right fit. Students who have been shaken by thinking, oh my gosh, now they can't take into consideration things about me or characteristics about me that I have no control over anyway. Don't worry, you have no control over that. Don't be distracted. You're amazing. What we're going to do is look at how do you showcase all the things about you that are special, all the things about you that make your story make sense, and all the things about you that show that you are bringing something to campus that nobody else has ever brought. Why? It's your lens through which you view the world, your way of problem solving, of thinking. It's your perspective that you get to contribute and that they get to benefit from. So you are bringing real value. I don't care who you are. And you want to find where that makes the most sense for you.
And can control your message, your narrative, your story. You can't control where you come from and who your people are. Yeah.
No, it really is more of an art than a science to getting into college. I can tell you the rules of the game. These are the things that universities are using to evaluate whether or not they want to bring you in or not. And through our College Smarter method, we have figured out some ways to help elevate the way those things are seen and paid attention to. That is a really valuable piece. We just have to make sure we're keeping the main thing. You are bringing something great to campus. Don't get distracted. We really help students and parents because the parent perspective is extremely valuable too, making sure we're bringing those together in a way that makes sense and it's just the right fit for you. And then you have an incredible experience. You have an incredible story too. Your story just makes sense and it makes sense for every stage of your life because you are intelligently designing your own path through college. The things that Sierra is doing now and in college, she has the benefit of being able to call me anytime she wants. She is the only person in the world who can call me anytime she wants and I will answer. She has a coach on call. John, she has not needed my guidance much in college. And Sierra's doing incredible things, but the method helps her learn to advocate for herself, tell her story in a way that now she's looking for different kinds of opportunities for herself because she knows her story makes sense. It's cool for her to be on the dance team. And at the same time, it's cool for her to volunteer with the kids who have Down syndrome. She gets to go and she has a hair salon dorm, like does hair. That's her fun thing. And she knows that she could do that. And she can also be doing the research that she's doing on mouse brains. Like all of this made sense for her. She started to design her own path. That makes me proud to see my students get to a place where they don't need to call the coach because they've got this, right? And I'm leaning in periodically to say, okay, have you thought about this? Because we help you find the winning team. You need a team. Professional sports, don't they have coaching teams? They don't just have a head coach, there's a team of coaches. And that's what we're looking at, putting the right team together for you. And when you get to the next level, you're starting to find the team that makes sense to get you to the next place.
Yes. Mentorship should come from more than just one mentor and eventually have faith in oneself. But this gets me thinking, Dr. Carmen, and I'm not expecting you to talk about your proprietary ways to elevate. If I have a high school student, whether I'm a teacher or a parent, who does have those special characteristics that make them unique, they don't necessarily know what they are. They don't see those things.
Mhm.
Or say 3 questions you should ask students to help them get on a path, like to start realizing what their unique value add, what their brand is.
It's interesting that you ask that. I'm going to come back to the benefit of AI. I walked the line on my feelings on Chat GPT. So I'm going to come back to that because it can be beneficial here. Sorry, I got distracted.
We can talk about AI. I'm telling folks we need to use AI too in planning our lessons and figuring out what differentiations kids need. At a certain point, if AI can help students at least start on the path, even if that path changes,
And it
that's
can
a good
help
thing.
teachers think of better questions, right? Questions that I might ask a student. What do your friends say most about you? What's the greatest compliment you've ever gotten? Why was that a compliment to you? What excites you? If you could do this every day, all day, what would it be? And why? Do you remember the 5 whys? Like you keep digging down. Why is it that you want to play basketball all day? I want to play basketball all day because I love the way it feels at the end of the day. Why do you think you love the way it feels at the end of the day? Why does that matter to you? Keep asking why. And you start to uncover powerful insights about a student. Back to the whole point around AI, where I find it beneficial is helping me think through things. Being able to say, hey, here are some things that I am seeing in a student. Here are some characteristics that I see. I want to help this person discover more about their gifts and talents. Give me some ideas for questions I might ask and give it information because it doesn't just spit out stuff that's super, super generic. But hey, this is a student who I've seen work really well with other kids, but seems to stick in the corner most of the time. When I ask questions, doesn't seem comfortable. This is a student who is a really talented artist and maybe hasn't tapped into that. Give them a student profile and say, give me some ideas for questions to help pull out more of what is meaningful to them. Let's see what ChatGPT comes up with for that.
I love it. Next question. Dr. Carmen, is there a way that schools might implement this practice or this helping our students to develop this mindset through a graduate profile or a portfolio? Have you done any work with students where their graduate profile was used to help them then find a university that fit them?
Now, help me to understand what you mean by graduate profile. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
A lot of schools have students do a graduate portfolio as part of their graduation requirements. Some project that demonstrates their interest, growth, and what they learned, whether it's a community service project, something that benefited the community, the school, an individual. Have you done any work where you tied the College Smarter method to that?
I don't tie the method to that because while I think that's a really interesting exercise to have them do in senior year, I say let's start that earlier. Think about the insights, questions, probing things we're asking to develop that portfolio. What if we'd asked them those same things 2 or 3 years earlier? What if we'd had them start on this path in ninth or 10th grade? I love when I get students in middle school. That is the best time when I have parents who come to me and they are planning ahead. We call that early advantage. College Smarter, we have 3 swim lanes for this thing. We've got the middle schoolers, and that's the early advantage where we're able to get a jump on that. We use not the exact same thing, but that kind of thing to help them do a lot of that exploration earlier, because then that puts them on a path so that by the time they've got to answer these questions for application essays or scholarship essays or interviews, they have internalized their story because it makes sense. And because they care about it, I would say start it sooner. We also have our momentum. College Smarter Momentum is ninth and 10th graders because now they're in the space getting into the game. They're in ninth grade, starting to hear people talk about who went to what schools and what happened next. They're starting to think about it. So now that their brains are starting to turn in the right direction if they are college bound. Their motivation is different and how they approach it is different. I call it 11th and 12th grade go time. At this point, we're looking at what have you done? And let's make sure this story is told in a way that's aligned. It's go time. Start sooner. What you're already doing in school is that portfolio project. It's a very valuable exercise. Encourage students to get on that path sooner.
In fact, as you were talking, Dr. Carmen, I realized that although there are many of them, I have worked in schools that started those portfolios in middle school, and the portfolio followed the student through high school. They could see their growth, and it does help them to see their own narrative because I believe Sierra is a perfect exemplar of starting early. Even when she was talking about her authentic self, she did a great job tying in what she did in middle school through high school. Her story was very clear. So I think you are definitely onto something that I think more of our schools should be doing, which is, again, not just doing a graduate portfolio of the last couple of years, but bringing in student artifacts, reflection from middle school on, because we want students to develop their skills over time because it shows growth.
And that is something schools can do. College Smarter is designed for parents who have done all the things. They've put their kids in all these things and done all the right things. Now I'm looking to give my kid a strategic advantage to get into a more competitive program. I love to see the light come on with young people. I am always speaking to groups and I'll talk to students at schools who aren't necessarily going to go through the College Smarter method in full, understanding that the sooner you start and tap into who you are and validate for the student, this is so important. Who they are is good enough. Not only is it good enough, it is great. Now, does that mean they don't need to do some things to showcase it in a different way? One of the things I do, which I give away for free, is I workshops with parents. I tell them, this is how colleges decide who gets in, right? And so I'll tell students, this is how colleges decide who gets in. If you have that insight, then you can use that to help you come up with your own plan. It's really important to allow the student to drive it and for them to internalize it because they got to sell it. At the end of the day, they've got to be the ones to write those essays. I know parents are writing those essays. And who else knows parents are writing those essays? The admissions officers who are reading them because they sound like they were written by somebody older than 15 or 16 or 17. But it needs to have the voice and perspective, the lens through which they see the world. That is where it starts to really shine. When they own their story and stand in their space and they are confident in it, they interview differently. They write about different things. They think about things that they care about that we don't even think of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sierra, is there anything that we have not discussed that you want to bring forth?
I can't think of anything right now. The biggest thing I wanted to emphasize was a lot of the things I did in high school and before that are still reflected in everything I do now. I volunteer at the homeless shelter. I shadow a psychiatrist, sit in with his patients, and sometimes I talk to them. I learn a lot from him. I work in research, learning more about the brain. I just do a lot of things. And then also bands, of course, that we talked about. I do a lot of things that I was doing prior to getting into college. And it wasn't just something that was like, I did it so that I could look good and apply to college. It was like, no, like I actually enjoy doing these things and I wanted to continue doing them. That process helped me, like my mom said, work on finding my own opportunities and searching for things I enjoyed. Now, thinking about applying to med school and thinking about the story that I want to create for myself, it's really easy for me to tell that story because it's all like real. It's all how I feel. I'm actively doing the things I'm saying. So it's not just sounding good on paper.
That passion comes through loud and clear in this interview. It's clear it's your story and not your mom's story, right? It's clear it's your story and not your teacher's story. And it does sound more authentic because you don't have to look at a prompt. It's your story. So, Sierra, what's one thing you wish you knew about college before you went?
I think the biggest thing I wish I had prepared for was the self-confidence and my ability to believe in and motivate myself. I didn't know how important that was going to be when I got to college. They hold your hand, they motivate you, they're watching your grade. If your grade is dropping, they're behind you. Hey, like, what's going on? You need to do this, you need to do that. In college, it wasn't that at all. If you need help, you have to get out of bed, go to office hours and get help. You have to look up things and teach yourself. If I hadn't become a different student than I was in high school, I wouldn't be successful. Not only being able to recognize that and tweak what I was doing and self correct and adjust, just also like mentally being able to be like, hey, like you're supposed to be here. Whatever you're doing is along your own path. There's people that literally have so many things on their resume already, and they're in my class and only been in college for 2 years. And it's just like they're doing 50,000 things, and I'm feeling behind. But then I'm like, no, I couldn't focus on 50,000 things at once. I have to do what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is great. It was a lot of times freshman year where I called my mom crying, I can't be pre-med anymore. It's just not happening. Like, I'm not gonna pass this class. And then every semester, I'm glad that was over. That was hard, but I got through it. A lot of students don't get through it if they don't have a strong support system, strong friends around them, supporting them. Just being aware that everybody goes through this. This is your first time in college. It's okay. Individual independence.
How did your grades work out after all that crying?
They were pretty good.
Yeah, we have
Resources. She was always the student doing the tutoring. She wasn't the one that got a tutor. She wasn't
Yeah.
the one who wanted to get support. There was something in her confidence. She had to say, hey, the smart people are the ones that say, I need help. They're the ones that don't try without getting support. She did things differently in college that she had to get her mind wrapped around. Then she just started to take off again.
my first year of college was a rude awakening.
Different.
What are the people that I am rooming with?
That was another problem.
Oh yeah, I could tell you stories, but I'm sure you have your own.
John, I really think that because of my work and watching people throughout their careers, if we could jump ahead from not just college, but throughout the career life cycle, I think about what if they had college smarter when they were younger? What if I had someone saying, hey, what you love to do is a viable career? I would have gone to a different university. I went to a prep school in high school, a very elite prep school. And then I went to a university aligned with that prep school because they needed their stats to look good. People assume sometimes that just because students have those kinds of advantages, they are automatically on the right path. That is not true. Attrition after the first year is between 25 and 30%, and that's across socioeconomics. Students who get into elite schools don't always stay. If we can figure out, let's help them find the right fit. If you hear a student say, college just wasn't for me, something in me just goes on. Now, I know college is not for everyone, but for a student who goes to college and says college is not for me, all I can think is, no, that college, that program, that circumstance wasn't for you. What if someone had helped you to figure out what really was for you, and that's the path you went on? Would you have made different choices? I know I'm very happy I'm walking in my purpose doing this work, but I know for sure that I would have picked a very different path had I known it was available. I would have gone to a different university and done different things. Many adults that I see in careers that they're like, I can't wait to retire so I can do what I really want to do. Like,
Exactly.
no, we're not waiting until we retire.
You're wasting your life.
Let's stop normalizing that.
Quite a lot.
Listen, it happens. I've been to med school graduations and seen people who had law degrees who were graduating with their MDs. Like, you're like, wait, you went to law school, then you went back to med school? It happens. But our goal is to get them on the right path early and watch them soar. It's so gratifying. I love it. I know I'm her mom, so of course there's a whole nother level to that thing. But I am loving watching her friends soar. I'm loving to see the light turn on and watching them explore their passions, but their passions that are aligned with real opportunities for a career. So exciting.
Yeah, even speaking about that, is there another student or two you want to highlight?
Sure. I've got students doing incredible things. I have a student at NYU Film School doing extraordinary work related to children with autism. She's also a dancer, following her path and doing incredible things in that space. She's winning awards. She got a congressional gold medal. The College Smarter Method did help. There are many students. Any student that comes my path, I know this is my purposed work. It is my business now, but it is also where I'm operating in my purpose. That's what lights me on fire because I know I'm meant to help young people find their way and light their path. Watching them start to own it and design their path to their careers and beyond is so gratifying. I love it.
And if I could snap my fingers, I would, but I can't. So we have to pretend. Dr. Carmen, before we conclude, anything we haven't talked about that you want listeners to know? Where can people find out more information about you and your work?
Sure. One thing I would like for listeners to remember is that middle school is not too early to start, and senior year in high school is not too late. Remember, you still have room to make a significant impact in the life of your young person, shift their trajectory to an amazing start to their career. College is a step toward a career, not the end game. And we don't approach it as such. We approach it as, hey, we're going to help you get into college, but really the value is beyond, right? And so we're playing the long game here. And that's something really important. Also, too, I will be hosting some upcoming workshops that will be listed on my website that will be complimentary too for parents, helping parents understand how colleges decide who gets in. They'll be able to learn more about that if they go to collegesmarter.com. They can learn about what we offer and how we could support them and help their kids, especially parents who've already done all the things. Now you're in this space where you're like, okay, it's go time. We're trying to figure out how do we stand out in this super competitive landscape. So happy to do that. But check us out at collegesmarter.com.
I will link to your website in the show notes. Ladies, thank you for your time today. This has been inspiring, interesting, and helpful for parents and educators. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us, John. It's been great.
Thank you for listening today. I hope you got some great tips that you can bring back into your teaching. Remember, have a life teaching without sacrificing your own. Also, don't forget to subscribe and be well.